No more AM for us. Good morning, everybody. This is going to be a little bit of a test run. We're testing the microphones because as we go on the road show, which starts with Councillor Kenny, hosting us over in Dover in a couple weeks, we need to make sure that the actual sound systems work. And this way, we can also potentially keep the air conditioning on in this room. We had a great breakfast this morning over at the Department of Education. I want to thank Commissioner Abelou and his entire team for talking about not just the programs that are out there, the summer programs, the opportunities, the infrastructure they have, the team, the fact that we're one of the few states in America that is actually credentialing more teachers than we ever have before. While there seems to be a national teacher crisis, our students are really getting some of the best and the brightest to be part of our system, which is pretty great. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Governor. On this day, June 28, 1776, the Declaration of Independence Committee brought their report to the Congress, who in turn kind of ripped it apart and put it back together again. But since this is the last council meeting before we celebrate the 247th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, I thought it would be appropriate to talk about that a little bit. And I'm going to read a commentary from the American Patriots Bible on March 23rd, 1775, when Patrick Henry spoke the now famous phrase, "Give me liberty or give me death." He wanted to arouse the Second Virginia Convention to arms against the tyranny of Great Britain. He noted that we have done everything that we could to avert the storm which is now coming upon us. During the critical years of 1775 and 1776, the American colonies have been forced to endure taxation without representation, searches and seizures without probable cause, the confiscation of firearms, and on and on. And though colonial leaders had tried to remain loyal to the crown and reconcile their differences, they were finally compelled to break away and revolt. The Declaration of Independence was written as a proclamation to the world of their reasons for separating from England. But while the Declaration gives a detailed list of legal offenses that England had left unresolved, the founders saw these as more than isolated wrongs. Thus, they saw them as a part of a predetermined plan to take away their religious liberties and reestablish the Church of England to rule over their hearts and their souls, thus enabling the colonies in that light. One understands the power of Patrick Henry's fiery words. Faced with such prospects, the Declaration stated that the American colonists were set to defend the laws of nature and nature's God, words that define the principle on which the founders stood. The laws of nature were understood to mean the will of God for man as revealed to man's reason. However, because man is fallen and his reason does not always comprehend the law of God, God gave his law in the Bible to make it absolutely clear. And if you would agree with me in a short prayer, may God preserve our republic as his divine providence created it 247 years ago. And if you join me for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. I'm going to have to get used to this. Is this what I sound like on TV all the time? High-pitched guy. We have a couple musical guests today. We always like to kick things off on the right note. And we have a couple of our own State House team here. The Singing Senator, if you've wandered the halls of the State House and all is quiet, you know a tour group is coming because you can hear Senator Abard singing from the hallways with his guitar. And Megan Rose is going to accompany him for a song, a couple songs. What are you doing? Oh, hey, you're getting the whole band. Yeah, All right, we got it.
We can get 3 if you like.
Who's probably enough? Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Paul Phillips, you got me on my left. Of course, the Megan Rose in the middle. And we asked what kind of song would we like, and of course I asked Maria from the Senate Chambers, and she said definitely a Tennessee Whiskey. So we're going to do a Tennessee Whiskey song along with another one.
Sorry, Councilor.
Run around the whole state of the town.
Hold on. Where's that? Yeah. No,
Well, thank you, Governor. Council, you know, Megan and Paul, Megan, Paul, myself, actually even Scott Spradlin, his band, we all were at the Rex area, we put on a concert, it's called Music Matters. And the whole concept of Music Matters is that we raise funds so that kids can own their own instruments. You know, with the mental health crisis that's out there, when a kid owns their own instrument, and they can make music, you never know if you just gave a guitar or a saxophone or a flute to the next, who's the great singer that was at the Joel recently?
The greatest singer? Kevin Neighbor?
Taylor Swift, yeah. We have two fans. But anyway, thank you, Governor, and
So how do they do that? How do they participate? Is there like a website they can go to, or?
well, there's no website yet, but what we do is when we put on a concert, you want to come to the concert, and you can donate directly to the school that will give the money directly to the children. That way it doesn't come through us, it goes directly to
So
the
there will
children.
be a concert?
Yes,
When's that?
next year.
All right.
We've already done one already this year.
All right.
Yeah, so, thank you.
No, thank you. That was really great. Thanks, guys. Okay. All right, moving forward, I'm going to call this meeting of the Governor Executive Council officially to order. I'm going to begin by asking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the June 14th, 2013 meeting.
Second.
For a motion and a second. Any discussions or changes to those meeting minutes? Sorry. Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those meeting minutes are approved. Next, from the Office of the Secretary of State, we have our civil commissions. Could I get a motion to approve the list of civil commissions?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any names or additional names to be placed on the list? Sorry. We just see Councilor Warmington's eyes right above these giant piles of papers. Just be sure we get good in. Any names? No? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of accepting the list of civil commissions as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the list of civil commissions is approved. We do have a couple resignations to accept today. From the Board of Dental Examiners, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Lisa Scott of Hooksett?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on Lisa? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lisa's resignation is accepted. From the Board of Veterinary Medicine, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Kirk Smith of East Kingston?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Mr. Smith's resignation is accepted. We only have a couple confirmations today, kind of a late week. Could I begin by having a motion to confirm Nicole Broussard Jordan of Manchester as the Deputy Commissioner at the State Liquor Commission?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nicole is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Amy Newberry of Pittsfield as the Director of the Division of Administration for the Department of Safety?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Amy's confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Arthur Nicholson of Portsmouth to the Enhanced 911 Commission?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Arthur's confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Michael Skelton of Bedford to the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority Board?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on Mike Skelton? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Michael is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Stanley Judge of Shelburne to the Passenger Tramway Safety Board? Any discussion? Counselor?
I can't let this one get by now. So our audience know that Mr. Judge is 96 years old. I'm not going to let this one get by us, Governor, because this gentleman is really a testament of what true public service is and volunteerism. We have a man that's 96 years old that served on the tram board since the late 1960s, who continues to give his public service to the state. If only he can inspire young people and mid-career professionals to get involved in these state boards and commissions. Stan Judge is the epitome of what public service is to the state of New Hampshire. His knowledge is invaluable. His mind is sharp as a tack. An engineer that knows a lot about the layout of ski areas in northern New Hampshire and every tram proposal that's ever been done in New Hampshire. And he has many on the table that he is reviewing with this committee. So, gotta love Stan Judge.
I believe he's one of the only people left in the state that knows how, I think some of the original ski lifts, which still run, they're all safe, they're all good. The safety board ensures it. But he's one of the only guys in the state that understands how a lot of those original ones still run. It's amazing. Counselor?
And just know he's committed to maintaining the Cannon Mountain Trail.
Well, we'll need him. We'll need him. All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of Stanley Judge, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Stanley is confirmed. I have a few nominations to read into the record today. To the Advisory Committee on Marine Fisheries, I nominate Richie White of Rye. To the Board of Dental Examiners, I nominate Angela Boyle of Londonderry. To the New Hampshire Land and Community Heritage Authority Board of Directors, I nominate Ben Wilcox of North Conway and Richard Cook of Warner. And to the State Board of Fire Control, I nominate Floyd Hayes of Bedford. That concludes the nominations for today. Next, we have our consent calendar agenda. Could I begin by asking for a motion to adopt the consent calendar agenda?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or items to be removed for further discussion from the consent calendar? Okay, hearing none, all those who consent to the consent calendar, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It has been consented. So moving on, we have our regular agenda. We'll start off with our team from Health and Human Services. I'm going to begin by asking for a motion to adopt agenda items 6 to 9 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Office of the Commissioner, although please note that item 6 is not being used. Motion and a second on items technically 7 and 9. Any questions on these three items? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 10 through 12 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Hampstead Hospital and the Residential Treatment Facility.
Second.
Any discussion? I think this is the first time we've broken these items out. Hampstead's getting its own section. Pretty
For today.
for today. Sure, Councilor.
Did item 10, did that take this to the committee?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 10 through 12 are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 13 through 15 from the Department of Health and Human Services from New Hampshire Hospital?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 16 through 26 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Economic Stability.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Wilmington.
So this is, there are a number of items here that are related to childcare. We had talked previously about the 30 million or 29 million that was still left in federal funding for childcare. Does this now exhaust that funding?
Good morning, Karen Keeper, Director for the Division of Economic Stability. It does not yet exhaust all of the 29 plus million. It exhausts 20 million so far. So we have the balance of funds with a couple of more procurements that you will see in July, and further funding that we're looking at for emerging needs and administrative costs that we have yet to calculate.
Thank you. And
Please.
on item 22, this is a lot like the program I had talked about earlier, that they're having a team to develop more family-based childcare services, like a really comprehensive program. Do you have any sense of if it's working?
It's my understanding, and there was an article in the Keene Sentinel this morning about the effectiveness of this program so far. So it sounded very positive with some success stories that did come out of that. So we're really looking forward to be able to expand that with CDFA with this particular funding and a contract that they are doing with UNH for additional funding to expand it even further.
And you're going to take this around the state?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing forward these contracts valued at $9 million. My question is, a significant amount of work has been done by Christine Santinello and her team. More specifically, her work has involved reaching out to stakeholders. She has met with she's had more than 430 responses from 56 organizations and entities and individuals. So met with more than 400 people, and I just want to make certain that this is being incorporated into these contracts, because there's a lot of preliminary work that is proposed.
The 6-month work that went into that was really comprehensive with all of those stakeholders. They are the ones that basically determined what the priority needs were in childcare. So there are 5 top priorities. They identified them. We just put them together to move forward with these procurements.
I'm sitting down with a group of child care providers and professional association here in New Hampshire this evening, and they had one concern, and I picked up on it as well, and that's agenda item 17, the familiarity that this vendor has with New Hampshire child care. Can we be assured that they do have that knowledge?
Yeah, this is, it's my understanding, yes, based on the research that we did with them and the scoring, that they do have this knowledge, so we're confident in this going forward.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Council King?
Thank you. Quick, the many was contracts and child care, great work, for this. But I'm going to with 11 weeks ago, is actually in the child care service. So Forest County, I just heard yesterday lost another child care center. So they're down to 4 in the whole county. And there's going to be an emergency meeting, I believe, the second Monday in July, to talk about child care services in Forest County. There's one facility in Holbrook that's left, one in Lancaster and 2 in Warren. And the one in Holbrook is under duress right now. There's a constant theme that we've heard statewide about staffing. Obviously, the operational expense of running a child care center, and also looking at the appropriate educational levels for the higher staff. So as we're putting all this wonderful resources into child care statewide, what do we do in Forest County to help out child care in Forest County?
So if we haven't already been communicating with the groups that are up there, we can certainly conduct some outreach, make sure that they're aware of each of these opportunities, to make sure that they can access that either funding that may be available for them to improve their own businesses through the Business Improvement Project, particularly where we conduct a health assessment of their business. Then they would be eligible also for grant money immediately. So we can make sure that they're aware of all these different opportunities that include the educational opportunities for expanding knowledge and education for providers, but also to really strengthen their own business and any other needs that they particularly have. One of the other things that we're looking at being able to distribute soon is the $15 million per fiscal year that came in HB2, specifically for the workforce and child care. So that may be another opportunity for them.
So what I do is, based off all this funding that's going out to help support child care statewide, I would probably reach back to the department. Maybe have someone show up at that roundtable meeting that Cross Family Health is putting together to try to identify that crisis that's going on there.
When did you say that?
July 10th, it's on a Monday. The other thing I wanted to kind of point out, well, we're putting a lot of money in this, a lot of, conscientious work, see where, this money is going towards with regards to child care. I don't see a lot of measurements in these contracts. We seem to be hiring a lot of consultants to do a lot of work on the child care front, but it seems like we're servicing approximately a certain amount of child care recipients and so forth. But how do we measure that? Like, for instance, we look at New Hampshire right now, and we compare ourselves to other states, and we do pretty well as far as the health of our kids in comparison to other states. But I also think we can do better. How do we know within our systems how we look at ourselves and grade ourselves and say, are we in A state or B state when it comes to child care? So it gets back to the measurements. How are we measuring our success and all this money that is going out the door in these various programs?
So there are, in each of these procurements, and there are 5 of them related to the ARPA discretionary funds, and then 2 others that do collect quite a bit of data, but we're trying to make sure that we have the strengthen the system to be able to collect that data and report out on it. So that's another area that we are working on right now to improve. But I think with all of the various procurements that we have, when you look at, for example, the workforce, that's pretty easy to measure with the providers directly. Some of the areas I don't think you can necessarily quantify or just qualify some of the success with that. Business Improvement Project, for example, we were looking at being able to have providers report back to us that have taken advantage of that particular opportunity and be able to understand from them that experience and then whether or not it was effective for them to continue or expand upon their program. So there's a lot of information, a lot of work that we need to be able to do exactly what you're asking for. And I'd be happy to bring some more information back as we collect it. One of the other procurements that's coming next month relates to the Quality Recognition Improvement System, which is known as Granite Steps for Quality. There are many, many metrics within that particular procurement that we should be able to see and then report out on as to what exactly the improvements that have been made successfully from that program.
Okay, back to measurements. When we look at the New Hampshire EC website, when we look at the New Hampshire Connection website, there's a lot of data that's flowing around, I'm sure, within those websites. And I'm not sure who has oversight and who updates that data. But do we have, from a public standpoint, suggestion box within those websites to say, hey, this is what's working, this is not what's working? Do you have a suggestion box within those websites so
Yes.
the public can weigh in?
Yes, we do. And we look at that on a regular basis, where we look at feedback that people are able to provide directly through that website.
Okay. So, yeah, from my standpoint, he's, obviously cares about the issue because, quite frankly, Governor, if we can solve childcare in this state, we can solve pretty much every other problem. Because that's tied to our workforce, it's tied to our economy, it's tied to our standard of living, and it's just tied about everything that's going to go on in the future in New Hampshire is good childcare. Thank you.
So because I'm fascinated by that too, like, you don't have to answer right now, but if you could get us, what data are we collecting? Is it number of kids in the system before and after? Is it the number of parents that are identifying it and go back and survey the parents that, oh, I couldn't get a job before, but now I can re-enter the workforce? What are the metrics within the quality standards? I think that's very interesting. I'd love to see what that is. And not just what the numbers show today, but what the numbers showed before. Because I think too often with childcare, the answer is, oh, we're putting $25 million or $100 million into childcare, which we've done. That's great. But what do we get? Right? I think that's your point. Like, what is the net result to not to the system, but to the citizens taking it? And I'm sure I would imagine it's better, but kind of the before and after. The pre-pandemic, during pandemic, post-pandemic, now that we're making these investment numbers, it would be fascinating to see.
Absolutely providing that. There are many data points that we're collecting on that in regards to the children as well as the families and the survivors.
That'd be great.
Yes, to the governor's point, we can hire consultants. We can do what we perceive as a lot of great work on the childcare front, and they can bring us back more problem sets on what we're not doing. And it could be a vicious cycle, money in, problem out. But money in, solution out is probably the way that we need to go, and to better understand the animal, because there's something, and I can't describe it exactly, but it seems as though that we still need that grassroots understanding of whatever's happening up here and that's being driven down to that level, that there's an understanding of the cause and effect of what's going on, that you need to listen more and more to that grassroots level in those local child care centers. And the new ones that have successful models, we try to borrow that successful model and bring it elsewhere.
There's a lot of that we will see from these particular procurements, whether it's tuition assistance, technical assistance, and then be able to collect that data. So we'll be able to bring some better information back to you once we get through some of this. It'll take a little while, but we'll get there.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on any of these items? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of 16 through 26, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
16, 17, 18, 19.
No on 16 through 19. Those are all approved. Moving forward, I'll ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 27 through 32 for the Department of Social and Human Services from the Division of Children, Youth, and Families. Any discussion? Councilor Steve.
Commissioner, in regards to agenda item 28, this is for the results-oriented management software system. 11 states are presently using this system. My question is oversight. Is there reciprocity between these 11 states? And this software will report outcomes on child welfare programs and child counts. So again, is there an exchange of data as well with these 11 participating states? And do they anticipate additional states joining?
Good morning, I'm Marie Noonan, the interim director for DCYF. And so each state does have unique contracts with the vendor. I don't believe there's collaboration among the states. The vendor does allow for unique ability to build queries for each state. So at this point, we have over 70 automated reports run, and they meet with us on a monthly basis to review that information and collaborate with us on the need for additional reports or each week of information.
Further discussion for DC1? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 33 through 46 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Behavioral Health? Any discussion? Councilor Warren.
Commissioner, on item 40, this is $512,000 to the city of Manchester for the provision of the mobile community response unit to address those who experience homelessness and also those living with substance use disorders or in recovery. This is a program that sort of replacing or the Safe Stations program that worked so well in Manchester, and the problem there obviously has continued, and very glad to see these additional funds. So many people who are suffering either mental illness or substance use disorders don't feel safe going to a hospital, police station, or going to the doorways program necessarily, but they historically have been safe going to fire stations. So very happy to see this program stood up. Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of 33 through 46, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 47 through 62 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Long-Term Support Services? Your second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on these items 47 through 62? Councilor Stevens, sorry, thank you. Morning.
Agenda item number 56. Thank you very much for reporting back to me regarding the venue that was overlooked. And I guess you met last evening to discuss the issue.
Good morning, I'm Melissa Hardy, I'm the Division Director for Long-Term Supports and Services. So item 56, the healthcare coordination contract for children with special healthcare needs, and there's a question about Region 9 providing services, so they will be providing to all children.
And that's community partners. Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And the other providers that, the other regions that have not been covered, we're still going to do additional outreach.
Yes, and then the interim department will take on those regions that aren't covered to provide healthcare coordination.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of items 47 through 62, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Finally, from Health and Human Services, could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 63 through 73 from the Division of Public Health? A motion and a second. Any discussion for our friends at Public Health? Councilor Warren.
Yes, I know you're continuing to have discussions in the department. Can you update us on the status of your decision as to whether to issue an RFP on the family planning contract?
Sure. We will be looking at issuing an RFP as soon as possible for family planning contracts.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Councilor Wood?
I just wanted, not a question, but I just wanted to point out, like, item 63, there's only one bid for this item, and that's going through the agenda today. We're getting several items, and we're only getting one bidder. So I'm hoping that the department heads will do some work and try to analyze why and try to get in some more competition.
Absolutely.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of items 63 through 73, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the items are approved. I have no items about Okay. Moving on to our friends at the Department of Transportation. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 74 through 88 from DOT?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nothing here.
Not that before, right? Not today. But it's coming along.
It is.
Construction's going well. Yeah, sorry, Councilor Whittle.
I just want to comment on item 80.
Sure. Oh, the commissioner's here.
I just want to comment on item 80, all electronic tolling, and certainly, I still remain opposed to this all electronic tolling. I think this makes us more like Massachusetts. I don't think it's consumer friendly. I think it's good for the department and the health of the consumer and their convenience to be able to pay cash. And so I will not be supporting item 80.
Councilor Kent.
I would like to echo those comments. One of the concerns I have is that we're becoming customer friendly at the toll booths. We're kind of going solely on the electronic toll booths. When I went from Fort Smith to Bolton, Maine for, 5.5 hour trip, every toll booth in Maine had a person to accept cash and coin. And that, since Maine is the vacation state, they also have an opportunity to speak to the toll attendant and say, where do I need to go to get over Orchard Beach, or how do I get to a certain location in Maine? And I've always found that to be kind of custom, service friendly, and I don't see that in New Hampshire, as we're continuing to get away from that customer service. And a lot of what I'm getting from constituents are these unique situations where they lost their, Easy Pass, or it went to a relative, or there's a student that's, away, going to school and didn't, somehow forgot that they had that easy. All these situations that occur that create some issues within the family when it comes to Easy Pass. Now, you can simply say that, everyone get an Easy Pass and you'll be fine. But there are situations where that doesn't happen. So I'm going to oppose this. I've always believed that maybe I just grew up in New Hampshire and I had those little old man on the mountain coins that we threw in the basket, and probably the governor remembers those coins too. And I thought, I was connected to the state somehow. I go through with an electronic Easy Pass. I don't feel like I'm connected to anything. And so, but I also found that attendance late at night, if I could stop by and say, how are you doing tonight? What's the traffic ahead look like? What's the traffic behind look like? They were an informational source for the state of New Hampshire. And they actually provide directions. They can tell you about medical services in the area and whatnot. And I think we're losing all of that by not having at least one cash attendant that's there at the toll booth that can provide some of that information. So, enough of my, that's not a question, that's more of a statement.
Thank you. Councilor Warrington?
I just want to say, as much as I always appreciated the warm welcome from our toll booth attendants, that I think that the department has made the case very clearly that removing the tolls improves traffic and therefore facilitates tourists getting where they're headed on busy weekends. It improves safety as we routinely have accidents at the toll booths. It improves sound for those who are residing near the toll booths with trucks, especially stopping, and the sound of brakes, and it has an positive environmental impact as there's less gas used because they don't have to start up and stop. So I certainly hope that the council will continue to support electronic tolling. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on this issue, but I do want to also just say, Governor, that we talked at the last meeting about
CSX, the owner of the Pan Am Railway, that wasn't really communicating with the state on the Concord Rail Trail project, and the commissioner has reported to me this morning that, thank you very much for the call, it looks like CSX is interested in talking, so thank you.
Yeah, they appear to be, we had a nice conversation. They appear to be moving forward. They showed me their boxes of thousands of files that they are like sifting through to make sure they have title and all that kind of stuff. But they're bringing it forward, so thank you for that.
Thank you. And I think, Commissioner, did you also have a communication with the city on this project?
Yes, following up on the governor's call, our staff met with city staff yesterday to start taking steps to address the items that we need to do moving forward.
Thank you.
So on the electronic tolling, do we get a win for both sides if we put like a chat bot or something in there? Because it's electronic, but we still have the customer service piece. AI bot and AI, we'll put AI in our toll, yeah, probably not a good idea. That's bound to go south quickly, probably.
On that point, I'm not opposed to electronic tolling. You can have 4 lanes that have electronic tolling, and then you have one customer service, all-purpose. That's not going to slow down traffic. Traffic's going to still keep moving. But we at least have an element of a friendly face that says, you know, if you don't have an easy pass, or you're just new to the state, and you didn't get one of those things, you know, that you have an opportunity to pay $1.75 in order to go through and no hassles. I just think that, again, the person and the purpose of that position to do so many other things, whether it's first responder, whether it's directions, whether it's travel and tourism information. I just, you know, I feel like, am I the only one out here that feels that way?
No, look, I think that customer service thing is huge. I think I don't want to speak for you, Commissioner.
I would just add just a couple of clarifications too. One thing, part of this item 80, a smaller part is the continued design for the electronic toll of Bedford. The bigger part of that is for the continued operation of the operation and maintenance of the overall electronic tolls. So that's Hampton, that's Hooksett, and the open road tolling that exists through them. And if it's any consolation, you know, at least for the near-term future, we have no plans to change any of the facilities at Hooksett on 993 or at Hampton on 995, where there is open road tolling, where there is attended lanes on either side. We have the Spalding Turnpike under construction now that'll be finishing up this summer. That is all electronic toll currently, because the booths have been closed. We're in the process of demoing the plaza and getting the big gantries up over there this summer, and that'll be kind of a trial basis before we move on to Bedford. But at least on the major corridors of 95 and 93, those big, particularly the tourism type of aspects on those major corridors, those will still have man booths for the foreseeable future.
So, I think going to the Dover toll, going to the Rochester toll, heading to the Lakes region, going up Route 11 to get to the Woonsocket area is a major destination. It has a lot of travel and tourism, and there's a lot of value by having a live person in the cash lane that is on both tolls, both Dover and Rochester, as they're heading north. I just believe that strongly.
Further discussion on any of these DOT items? Nope. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Go for it.
Well, it's another issue that we just spoke about earlier, but we had flooding situation just recently, and we love floods. That's one thing the council does, is love floods. You know, that's just one. Because there have been many over the years. But in Alexandria, which there have been a lot of calls to me about the roads being flooded, I want to clarify, there are no state roads that are flooded. Are these all local roads in Alexandria that are flooded?
Yes, primarily those are local town roads State did have some damaged roads on Route 3A in the same area in Bristol. West Side Road along Yukon Lake had some washouts. That was closed for about a day and a half until we got that repaired. But most of what I've seen on the news, and I think with the pictures you showed, were all on town roads in Alexandria.
And Westmoreland too.
Westmoreland, that might have been from last night's flood, the
Yes.
storms there. Cheshire County had more rain
Yeah.
last night and the night before, right?
So much like we had floods last year in Allstate and Washington and so on, how do we respond as a DOT? What type of assistance are we providing that local community of Alexandria?
We're available as a resource if the town reaches out. Primarily, the primary resource from the local municipalities is through HSEM and their work. We manned our cable at the Emergency Operations Center, but typically, the response to those type of emergencies goes through.
But if they need trucks, if they need materials, DOT can and will provide.
We can have requests. Typically on those storms, we're dealing with our own forces and fixing, floods and storms and damage on state roads, so we may not have the ability to provide that direct assistance. That's where HSCM comes in, helping coordinate that assistance. But if we can, we will, yes.
Okay, and this is my last question. What is your assessment of Alexandria and the town's roads? Are they been shut off? Are they passable? I haven't been out there, but I should.
I can't speak. I haven't the details of what exactly is going on there. I apologize, but I can get you some information and follow up with you.
So if I may, what I know is, I think the town has been working the washouts at the end of the driveway. There's basically one or two large neighborhoods that kind of go up the mountain. The washouts that are there are big. I believe the town is bringing in enough fill so the folks can actually get out of their driveways. And I think everyone has road access at this point, but then it'll have to be restabilized in a more permanent fashion. Yeah, if there's folks in the town, by all means, have them reach out to, probably food box in the Department of Safety at HSCM, which will then relay the need for
Yes.
the to firefighters, whether it be to safety and DOT, whatever it must be.
Thank you.
Further discussion for DOT? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of 74 through 88, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
No need.
Okay, 3-2 on 80. Okay, good. 80. Thank you. Thank you. I'm now going to ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 89, 90, and 90A from our DOIT, Department of Information Technology. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 91 and 92 from the Office of Professional Licensure and Certification? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 91 and 92 from the Office of, nope, sorry, we did that. We'll do it again. No, we're approving. Sorry, Treasurer. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda items 93 through 96 from our friends holding all the money at the State Treasury? Any discussion? Councilor Gatsas.
Thank you, Governor. Just a general discussion. What are we getting for interest rates right now with that money in the banks?
Good morning, for the record, Monica Misspelli, State Treasurer. Thank you for the question, Councilor. So, it's not a straight answer. So we do invest our funds in, a variety of portfolios. So for example, for our operating funds, we have a specific portfolio for that. So it needs to be liquid, it needs to be safe. So we are invested in bonds, so anything that, so I'll probably say, on average, we will probably earning 4%, close to 5%, depending on, but we have maturities coming all the time, so it really changes. We constantly, invest in and receive in some of the liquid funds and reinvest in. So as the interest rates are changing, obviously we take advantage of the market rate at the time.
Thank you. So, so how do we, is it you or who in the department really assesses what the different financial opportunities are within not just the institutions that hold our money, but the different vehicles and the different interest rates? In other words, hey, maybe we should put 50 million into this CD at 18 months as opposed to 25 million into that CD at 24 months, and does, well, the yield curve is a little inverted, so is that going to make sense? Who's going to do the assessment? Do we have consultants that kind of give us outside feedback, or is there an internal team deciding where the dollars go?
We do, so both. So internally, obviously, we need to understand when the spending is occurring, we understand, how the budget works, and, every month we know, our daily disbursements and monthly disbursements, so we know that inside. Externally, we work with a firm that guide us as to, what are the best opportunities for the state, and looking for the best interest. The timing obviously is a big difference. I mean, it's a big factor. We could probably, right now the interest rates are high, so we could probably think, well, we want to invest everything or keep everything very liquid. But, another opportunity we don't want to lose is, a little bit of the long term, so 2-3 years, try to lock those savings for those interest rates. So, so there's definitely a very in-depth conversation happening on a regular basis as to what's the best opportunity for the state.
Okay, great. Thank you. Please.
I'm glad to hear you're up over 4%, because that makes a big difference.
It does. The situation has changed as we see. I mean, it's a good opportunity. Obviously, now the interest rates are high. There's a reason for that. We're fighting inflation. So, but our understanding now is, for as long as inflation stays, if it remains sticky, we'll see that interest rate environment for some time. It may stay for some time, depending on how inflation behaves over time. Obviously, the target is to keep it at 2%. That's what the Federal Reserve is trying to achieve. So we'll see how that performs over time. So yes, so again, we're trying to take advantage of the current environment and provide earnings for the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion for the treasurer? Okay, all in favor of items 93 through 96, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved.
Thank you.
Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 97, 98, and 99 from the Judicial Council? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 100 through 105 from the Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services? Any discussion? Councilor Kenny. Is the general here? I saw this morning. Is either the general or Warren Perry here? Someone from Military Affairs? Let's give him a second if you don't mind. He just might be up. He's coming. No. We've lost our general. Yeah, would you like us to come back to these items? Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's put all of the items from Military Affairs and Veteran Services on hold, if we could. I'm going to move along and ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 106 through 108 from the Department of Agriculture, Markets, and Food. Any discussion? Councillor Stevens. I think the commissioner is here.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. Just want to follow up briefly on our conversation that we had regarding this troika of terrible weather that our farmers have had to endure. First, there was a cold snap in February, followed by the freeze in May, and now we've only had one day over 80 degrees in temperature for our growing season. And as we discussed, in my district, peaches are key. It's a key crop to coming out of the winter. The crops have failed, so there's going to be an issue with cash flow. Secondly, we don't know, it's too soon to tell the devastation to our apple crop. And now our berry crop is being compromised. Could you just fill in the council on your discussions at federal level and what sort of resources and potential help is out there?
Certainly, it is shaping up to be a very poor year for anybody growing fruits and berries. Also, some are doing well. However, as I'm sure you know, the state has no resources to deal with that. The federal government does. Currently, in working with the Farm Service Agency from New Hampshire, Jeff Holmes is the executive director. We are working on a letter. Hopefully, we'll be going into the Secretary of the USDA to declare 8 of our 10 counties as disaster areas. Now, all that does is make low-interest loans available, and nobody wants to take on more debt. The Secretary was in state 2 weeks ago. I did have a discussion with him relative to what might be available. The only glimmer of hope really is anyone that has a loan that is through the USDA or guaranteed by the USDA. In those cases, there is money available for the payments to either be waived for a period of time or in the cases where it's a private lender, for the payments to be made by the USDA. That's really about all that is in the works right now. It's very limited. There is crop insurance, but generally speaking, that probably only covers about 25% of the loss on most of those crops.
And you stated there's some hope there for modifications so that people can survive, but farmers are just holding on. So anything that can be done would be so appreciated. I appreciate what you've done today.
We are trying and keeping on top of it the best we can.
Thank you.
If I could have a quick question, when will I have a better assessment of the impact specific to the apple crop? Is that something we would know midsummer, or do we have to kind of wait till they really come through in September?
Yes. So right now, most of the individual farms are aware of what their losses are. There is a survey being done right now. I received notification of that is going out to the growers to try to get a better handle on that. But the losses vary greatly. There are some farms near the seacoast where there's very little loss, others where it's 100%, somewhere, even though it may be a 75% loss, the 25% that is still growing are not marketable. They'll only be good for cider apples. So it's really a different situation than we've seen in a long time, and the grape growers are in a similar situation.
But we are doing a survey and should have something to do.
A survey is being done, and I would hope in July we would have a better idea exactly where we're at.
Great. Well, I would just ask you, whenever that's done, sooner the better. I would ask to distribute not just to the council, but to the legislature as well.
All right, we can certainly do that.
Governor, I have a question. We were on a tour Monday, Stratton County Farm Board, and I think we ended up in the Farm Nashville Farm Farm, which is basically a fruit farm where you can go inside it, and the peach trees were bare, peaches are growing and all. But on the upside, they're making a lot more hard cider there. So hard cider production and sales, so that's But my question is on, a few months ago, we passed on this council $1.3 million meat processing infrastructure grant money that is distributed to 4 or 5 locations. Can you give us an update on that? Any checks have been issued, and what are the requirements for the individual owners when it comes to ordering their capital equipment?
So, yeah, I think there were 8 grants, if I'm correct on that. We did give some flexibility because some of the grants were relatively small, and so the first idea was, well, when you send us the invoices, we'll give you 25%. On some of those, because the numbers were so small, it made more sense to, as soon as they told us what they were buying, who they were buying from, to cut 100% of those or checks right away. As of the previous council meeting, all checks, the first checks to everyone had gone out. So everyone is very satisfied with it, and the process is working as smoothly as we could have hoped. Now, on the other side, I'll make a little pitch while I'm standing here on the ARPA funds. The other part of that, because of $750,000 was the grants and the rest was for education, because we have a real shortage of people who are able to slaughter and actually cut meat. Our original program was for the educational component. That part of it is going fine with cooperative extension. The other part was a mobile trailer, so we could get into vocational schools, we could get into different locations where we didn't have access to an actual facility, because we can work, and we will be working with slaughterhouses going into their facilities, but that doesn't work all the time. So the original number that we came up with for that mobile trailer is higher than we thought, and we are short. We're not talking millions, we're talking hundreds of thousands, and a few of that. So I would really make a plea. Right now we've been told, no, can't get any more money, and really hope, and heard yesterday, that there will be money coming back. So we're hopeful that we could get another few $100,000 to complete that project. That would be very, very helpful and very important to the meat processors, and of course to those growing beef and pork in New England. So that's my pitch while I'm up here.
Thank you. Further discussion? The Commissioner. Okay, all in favor of items 106 through 108, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 109 and 110 for the Department of Corrections?
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 111 through 113 from the Department of Energy? Second. Thank you. Any questions on 111, 112, or 113? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No on 111. The items are approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 114 from the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. Any discussion? Councilor Stevens.
Morning, Council. James Merrick, Liquor Commission Director of Administration.
Very productive meeting last week with the entire team to discuss the progress of the revitalization of 95 at Hampton. And just want to share a few notes on the accomplishments today and where we are. And it's a very exciting project. It's going to be great for my district, great for Hampton. It's an unprecedented location with access. It's the only spot on 95 on the eastern seaboard where you can access directly to and from. So
You said it better than me, but I think the most important thing to say is we're continuing to move forward. Our application has been filed with DES, and that's the next step to then sell the property.
And the RFP process, we're almost there.
Almost there. It's been a long time, and I think we all recognize that internally, but we're moving forward.
It's a great project.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of item 114, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 115 through 119 from the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councillor Kenny, I think the Commissioner. It must be sunny. The shadow leaders.
So, Gopher is wrapping up its business to some degree, or are we going to the agency's heads and asking for whatever money they have left over to bring it back to you, and then you kind of circle the wagons again, decide how you're going to look at your priorities or what might be funded? So can you explain that process? I explain it the way I see it. Can you explain it the way you see it?
So yes, as you see, we have a number of programs that we've been funding over the last several years through different agencies. Some of those funds are not yet fully utilized. If those programs reach an end point, those funds effectively come back to Gopher or the Treasury, where it actually sits. And then we will get to a point where we have a pipeline of projects that did not go through under the initial obligations that we've just more or less wrapped up. So at some point, we will return to those projects and make decisions on which of those projects are going to continue forward and which we'll bring forward to you.
So follow up to that, so the existing projects that are in the pipeline will be considered for additional funding. But what about projects that weren't funded? They're probably out there.
Yeah.
Money be repurposed for new projects.
As long as those funds meet all of the compliance requirements under ARPA, our goal will be to spend all of that down and obligated prior to December of 2024.
When you heard Commissioner Jasper for this pitch.
He mentions that to me on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of items 115 through 119, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. I'm not going to ask the council. Oh, no, thank you. No, appreciate it. Let's go back. I know the general is joining us, so we still have items 100 to 105, which have been motioned. So I'm simply going to ask the general to come up, and I believe Councillor Kenny had a question for military affairs and services.
Good morning, Cal. How are you?
Very good, Council.
So my question was, if you have, it's $1 million asks for separate architectural firms. One is, why are we doing that way? And secondly, what are the projects that we're looking at this coming year for the National Guard?
So for the record, David Nicolaitis, Adjutant General, New Hampshire National Guard. It's $1 million as an upper limit for 2 years apiece. 4 architectural firms, 1 site civil, environmental engineering firm. It's either internal studies or it's planning future designs to compete competitively against other National Guards throughout the country.
So to answer my question, are there any capital projects that the National Guard's looking at this coming year or next year?
Yes, the current capital budget was just approved. And so once we get those, we will work with Admin Services Division of Public Works to initiate designs whether they do it or we do it. And concur with them to bid those.
Do you have any specific naming projects you can give us?
One is a new armory in Plymouth. The second one is a new field maintenance shop in Littleton that will actually be going off for bid this fall. Another one we're working on is a Berlin Mine Airport hangar.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
They're all in your district.
That's right.
Surprising.
And as a result, he gets a poster.
Councilor Stevens, did you have a couple questions?
Adjutant General, isn't there a readiness center component to this as well within these contracts?
But, say that again.
A readiness center component or planning?
Yes, generally speaking, a majority of the funding for the designs will go towards like armory improvement, readiness center improvements throughout the state.
Well, but military preparedness for our...
Right, so, for example, whether it's soldier or equipment readiness, the number one priority is fixing our facilities so our soldiers can train, both Army and Air, and then obviously the equipment readiness. So yes, there's a readiness component to it.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of items 100 to 105, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Thank you, sir. I'm going to now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 120 through 136C from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. Any discussion? Councilor Stevens, I think the Commissioner is still here. Still here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. In regards to the McKinsey contract, we first saw this and the amount was $10 million. And we thought this was going to be a great vendor. We could turn it around quickly, but here we are with a contract extension and an increase of $1 million. So my question is, today, by May 31st, we should have paid $1 million and then an additional 2.5 on August 31st. My concern is, where are we today? And with the phase structure, are we expecting any additional bills or surcharges that we were not anticipating?
No, I mean, that project is the completion of the report that I think was in the item that we gave you. And then now we're going to be acting on that report and initiating phase 1 of the actual build-out of this system, which should be complete by October.
Thank you.
Further discussions for Councilor Warren?
Alright, elaborate a little bit more on 36B, what we're getting for the additional $10 million.
So, so what we're doing with this phase now is we are initiating the actual build-out of this entire new network. So this will be 9 agencies working in the Department of Information Technology to effectively change the platform where businesses have an ability to interact with the state across those 9 agencies. So that involves not just building a new website. This is functionality, search functions. It's going to have a component to it where individual businesses will be able to have their own single sign-on. They'll be able to come onto the website, get all the information that they need for filings or permitting or paying fees or whatever that case might be at that one portal site. So it's a pretty significant investment in the ability for us to both serve those businesses, but at the same time, it should also reflect some pretty significant savings on the state side from efficiency that we would gather from that.
Yeah, just really kind of wondering why this didn't go up to bid $1 million. Seems like a significant expenditure here to have other vendors that provide.
So we competitively bid the initial work to design the program, and within that, we did talk about having an ability to implement those programs and execute on that strategy. So that's where we are right now. We didn't put it all together at that particular moment in time, but this is the same organization that has built the strategy and the structure in coordination with us, with DOIT and the other 9 agencies. So given also that these are ARPA funds, we have time frames that we need to be aware of as well.
So are you saying then that because the initial project was a $1 million project that we did, that once that $1 million project was awarded, we were locked in with that same company to do the $10 million project?
No. Actually, we're amending the contract, the $1 million contract, with the extension for the actual execution component.
Councilor Kenny, want to come up?
Commissioners, so this strategic information plan that I have right here, is this the plan that this company would have executed for $1 million?
Yes, they developed that plan.
$1 million right here. Okay.
That was a substantial undertaking, Counselor, to get us to the point where we are, to take 9 agencies, different web programs, get them onto a single portal that will provide significant benefit to our businesses to be able to interact with the state.
So Commissioner, how much money do you have in your budget for recruitment for your department?
Recruitment.
Yes, recruiting of businesses into the state of New Hampshire.
We don't necessarily have a specific line item that says recruitment on it. It is part of the work of our department. So we have 3 staff people that work on that on a regular basis.
So there is no money for recruitment for businesses?
No. There are 3 full-time staff people in the state that only recruit businesses. So it doesn't say recruitment, but
That's correct.
yeah, I don't want to imply that we're not recruiting businesses.
Well,
And they work better than anybody in the Northeast.
So here's my concern is that, thank you Doug, for clarifying that, is that we have a strategic plan for $1 million. We want another $10 million to create this business portal. And yet, if we create a portal, I'm really kind of defeating the purpose of customer service, which is having our individual folks go out into the field and work with businesses and try to get the answers that they need while they're out there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're still going to be doing that. This purpose of this resource is to work with existing companies or companies that want to come to New Hampshire to be able to get the information that they need on that, across multiple platforms. It does not stop the need for us to continue to do the work that we do to recruit companies to come here. We're not going to have a system or an AI system that's going to be able to provide the services that our 3 recruiters play on a regular basis with businesses that are either looking to expand in New Hampshire or looking to come to New Hampshire. So we're not displacing that function necessarily. We're making it easier for a business to either start in New Hampshire, to be able to go to the Secretary of State's office and go to DES, go to DHHS, go to the different places that they need to get the permits, to pay their fees, and to pay their taxes. These are all things that many, as we have come out of COVID and we have this digital experience, right now what we have to do is you have to hunt and peck your way through different agencies to find what you need to do. And this, in our view, is a substantial improvement over our relationship that we'll be able to have with the employer.
So to use an example, a restaurant opens up. Okay. So there's a checklist that DHH provides, which has DES on it, and probably the liquor commissioners are part of that process as well. It seems pretty straightforward. My concern is really with the cost. I mean, I get it. You've got 9 agencies that are involved, but for a $10 million platform that hasn't been put out for bid, in the sense that it wasn't put out for bid, $10 million and $1 million for this. When I look at this, having seen strategic plans in the military, where we just get a bunch of staff people and create a strategic plan for a few weeks or a couple of months or whatever, that's a lot of money to create $1 million for this strategic plan and then ask for $10 million to create a portal. It seems to me the state government has gotten very expensive lately.
Councilor Stevens?
I just want to clarify, we did bid this out the first time. Though it was the highest amount, this vendor was selected. And again, the goal was that they could do this efficiently. The $10 million comes as a complete shock. I'm concerned about other fees popping up along the way. That's my greatest concern. And again, that $1 million is due on May 31st and 2.5 again on August 31st. It concerns me.
Okay, further questions?
Thank you, Governor. I'm just concerned that we really didn't get the whole picture when we voted on the $1 million for this, and really knowing that we're going to be asked for 10 times more of that money, and that it would be coming in sole source, and that wasn't going to be put out to bid again. And I just think it's really wrong that this in particular is sole source, and I'm not sure that the other state websites are dysfunctional, and why you would need anything more than something to link them all together, not $10 million.
Okay, further discussion? Council Warmington?
I just wonder if you could explain again, maybe I haven't heard it, why this is
So we saw this project as a whole. So we had the need to design. So let me go back in time. There have been a number of efforts over the years to be able to establish effectively a one-stop for the state of New Hampshire. Different agencies of different versions of DOIT or myself have made an attempt to do that for the reasons that I've tried to explain. That process becomes exceedingly complex once you start to dig into the finer components of designing websites that can work together, that have been designed separately to be able to provide that functionality that I'm talking about, not just an improved Google search. This is a process that will allow any employer, big or large, to be able to access the full suite of state services in a single location. And so that was our goal. When we put that bid out for that project, it was entirely likely that the organization that spent the amount of effort and time with a large team working with the 9 different agencies and sub-teams within state government to work with the consultant, that would be, given the timeframes that were under ARPA, given the fact that it is completely consistent with the activity that they have been engaged in to this point, that this was the best option for us to move forward, was to amend the existing contract.
So having not gone out to bid, how do you know that the $10 million is a reasonable amount?
So part of what we had done at that time was examine the cost that other states have paid in order to get similar type systems. And that range went anywhere between $7 million and $15 million. So when we had a concept of what this would ultimately cost, this was the number that we worked on. Now, this is a not-to-exceed contract, so it's very likely that we may not spend that amount for this fund, but that is the process that we're in.
That does not pass this way. Okay, thank you. I just have on a separate item from the last meeting, you had a tabled item 100, which is the conference. It's not on this agenda today. Did you remove
So
it?
the point was well taken on that point, and so we've gone back and I've asked the staff to reconfigure that.
They've rolled that money into the one-stop business. Councilor, yes.
Thank you, Governor.
That was a joke, but we
You would
did it.
probably consider this 10 million.
I'm sorry?
I would hope that you would consider this 10 million the same thing as the contract 100 that we voted down last time, because never did you ever say that the $1 million would be followed by another $10 million. Never did you tell us that. And I think that's unreasonable, especially when it's a sole source. So you don't know whether somebody else would have done it for $7 million.
Further discussion? Councilor Kenny?
Somewhat of a similar topic. It's been close to maybe 2 years, but are we going to fill the economic development director position?
Yes.
Is that in the works?
Yes.
It's taken a while?
It is taking a while.
Sorry. Once more, can you just tell us what would be the implications if the council voted down that contract 11360?
Well, it would be hard for me to say other than we would stop where we are right now.
So if I may, if if one of the desires of the council was to look, make sure we go out and redo an RFP process, would we have enough time to do that, given the time constraints on the federal dollars?
Well, it would probably be the option we would have to choose at that point.
Yeah.
But I think that's really the question that I'm after. Is there time to go on back out to bid and then still be able to draw down these federal funds?
I would have to say, yes, we would attempt that if the council didn't want to go forward at this point.
Councilor Stevens?
Again, I just want to stress, this was bid the first time, and this was the highest bid. The low bid was $56,000. The second bid was $300,000. And these added costs come as a complete surprise. The first round, it was bid. And the focus in going with McKinsey was, again, that this could be quickly turned around. And here we have a quick extension. And I realize the amount of work that you have put into it, but it just appears that it is spiraling out of control.
Just for the record, and I remember we discussed this previously, those other bids completely did not meet the requirements of what we were looking to do at the time. That was why we moved forward with it. And I would say, the vendor in this instance completed this work with a team of probably 25 people inside of 4 or 5 months. So we pushed them to move quickly so that we would have time to sort of get us to this point and move ahead.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, if you were to go out to bid, knowing the marketplace, do you expect other bidders?
I know that I would expect other bidders for sure. Yeah.
Other bidders do this in other states?
I don't know exactly how other states, like who had done their work, but I would imagine it's more than just one company, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of items 120 through 136C, please signify by saying aye.
No one.
Yeah, okay, well, all those not in favor of item 136B, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone for it?
No.
Oh, boy. Got me blamed, brother. We tried. And 136C, noting for Council Word, thank you. So just with the council's, is it the council's desire that we can, that the commissioner will continue on with an RFP? I just don't want to waste the commissioner's time if the no is on the concept or the no is on the, because it was so sourced. I just want to know. I think it's a great project. I think it's absolutely needed. Like, I'm 120% behind this thing. But I just don't want to waste your time and your efforts if it's doomed to not go anywhere on the concept.
No, I think that I'm certainly supportive of the concept. I'm not pleased with the concept.
I will agree, and my hope would be that we could extract information data that we have used to date and transfer that and utilize that to again lose $1 million that we owe at this point.
My input would be, I think we need more information on exactly what this do and what's the benefit of what we have now and what we can get ahead of time, maybe a breakfast.
Yeah.
Councilor Cantor?
Thank you, Governor. How about if we put in the RFP that $1 million package that we've already paid for, that somebody can go out there and take a look at and come back with some solid answers? It might be a lot less than $7 million.
Yeah. Understood.
Okay.
Great. Right.
And back up the way, I'm skeptical of the concept. I'm open-minded to the concept, but we need to bring the price way down for us to support the concept.
All right.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it.
That just gives you more money to spend on other projects.
What we got on that? So I'm going to move on and ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 137 through 141A from Fish and Game. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Can I get a motion to adopt agenda items 142 through 147B from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources?
So moved.
Any discussion? Counselor Kenny. Oh,
I was going to say, Council Wheeler,
a little dance going on there.
Counselor
Counselor Wheeler?
But regarding the rail trail, it's kind of related to that, not just picking up a ride, but we've had trouble on other rail trails where we have an independent operator operating on the state rail trail. And then the independent operator's insurance company says, no, can't open that up to snowmobiles in the winter when the independent operator's not using it. Because I have that problem in my district.
Okay.
I want to know if the department's aware of that, and if there's anything we can do to fix that.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to call up Craig Rennie, who's our Bureau Director for the Bureau of Trails within Parks and Recreation. Did you hear the question?
Good morning. Yeah, I didn't quite get the question, but Craig Rennie, Chief of Bureau of Trails.
The question is, in specific, the state-owned line from Milford and Bennington.
Correct.
There's a private operator that runs a gravel operation on that line.
Yeah.
We're being told that in the winter, we can't run snowmobiles as well as, and he's not running the train in the winter, that we can't have snowmobiles on that because the operator's insurance company will cancel his insurance if we do.
Yeah, that's correct. We've been working with DOT, so when they renew their contract, that it's just summertime use so that we could open it back up to snowmobiling like we had in the past. So we're kind of working closely with Bureau of Rail and Transit to see if that can happen when that license expires, which I believe is next year. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. A few questions about the natural cultural resources. So I reached out with regards to Ted Burns and his group up north. They're apparently very proactive, so much to actually work before May 1st of each year. Have we been able to communicate with them and talk to them about how we're going to resolve their reimbursement issue?
Great question. We've actually already resolved that. There was a lot of missing paperwork from that club, and we were able to work with one of their new members that helped head out, and we got a lot of stuff resolved, and all their bills from 2022 have been paid. And a lot of their other projects got funded that originally were not going to get funded because they didn't have all the right paperwork into it, but it looks like they're in better shape than they were about a month ago.
And moving forward, will there be an understanding between the club and the state how they need to file the paperwork and at what time they need to file the paperwork?
Yeah, some of our volunteers and clubs, they just have limited resources to get some of the paperwork done. So we're trying to help them by improving our forms, improving the process, trying to even change our administrative rules to make it easier if we can for volunteers to understand. And we've actually just made some improvements to our website on the whole grant-made process, so that's going really well.
Okay, yeah, right. Glad to hear. And my second question is more directed to the Commissioner. Are we coordinating with the U.S. Forest Service on the rainbow gathering issue? And I know they got wrecked the last week, but what is the status and what is our, best foot forward effort?
Oh, thank you. I do not speak on behalf of the Rainbow family. They are currently in New Hampshire at the National Forest. I have been speaking with the head of the New Hampshire Mountain National Forest, Derek. We've had conference calls with Department of Safety, and it's our staff's role is just doing our current job of forest ranger, going around and checking on problems. Our staff at Jericho State Park, for example, are on alert in case there's heightened activity, but they're not on our state property, and so I have not been made aware of any problems specifically.
Right.
Yeah. You're welcome.
But again, just to reiterate, they're on national forest land. I think there's, I've watched online, I think there's a lot of misinformation that somehow they're on the state lands and the state parks, and so the state, there's only so much the state can do.
Correct.
They're an unorganized group technically, so There's really no permits there or anything
They
at the state level.
they have the leader.
And they're not really, they're not in our jurisdiction technically, so. But everyone is aware that they're.
It's always good to ask the question.
Further discussion for the department? Okay, if you have no further discussion, all in favor of 142 through 147B, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 148 through 202 of the Department of Environmental Services?
Okay.
Thank you. Give everyone a moment. There's 50 items here. DES is busy. Councilor Warmington.
Good morning, Bob Scott, with the Department of Environmental Services.
Hello, Commissioner.
Hello.
This is on item 160. This is the laboratory, the Absolute Resource Associates Laboratory Services that was previously provided under a statewide contract administered by DAS. That contract expired on April 30th, and that contract has been competitively bid. This one is not. This one's going to go for a year. My question is just, are you going, first of all, why are you not doing it through a statewide contract anymore? And secondly, when are you going to put it out to bid?
Those are great questions. Give me a second. I do have a lot of items. I apologize.
Yes, you do. $160.
Right, so as you allude to, so as soon as there is a statewide contract, we'll revert back to that. This is intended to be a stopgap.
So, is there going to be a statewide contract?
Historically, there has been, so that's my understanding. I guess I'm putting Charlie in the spot. I apologize.
I'm in the foggiest as I sit here. I gotta talk to somebody. I don't know. I'll find out.
All right, I'm fine with approving this. I just wanted to make sure that it will go out to bid.
That's our understanding. And again, you know, this is critical work for us, so that's
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
we're trying to plug the gap.
Yep,
Councilor Stevens?
Just to be clear, we have a well testing program that is on hold, your district and mine, due to the fact that we don't have capacity to test water at this point. So this contract would assist with well water testing, correct? From Councilor Kenny, and it's critical that this happen during the summer months because the concentrations are higher.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or items for DES? Councilor Stevens?
On the topic of dams, this contract here, we have $2 million. We've approved $35 million in ARPA funds. And of those that are outstanding and needing repair, there's 4 classifications, the non-low, significant, high. What percentage are ranked as high? You know, in the event that there was a dam failure, you know, the probable loss of life and damage would occur. Do we know?
So if I could, just to clarify your question, are you asking for the ARPA funding? Because we have $35 million in ARPA funding that were programmed for high hazard dams only. So all the ARPA money funded dams that you see are high hazard dams.
So we are tackling those that are most unstable at this
Correct.
time?
We're prioritizing, so to speak.
And all of them are covered at this time?
No.
No. Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay. All in favor of these items from the Department of Environmental Services, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda item 203 from the Connecticut River Valley Resource Commission?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 203 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 204 from the New Hampshire Veterans Home?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 204 is approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 205 through 233 from the Department of Education?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Warmington.
Good morning, for the record, Frank Edelblue, Commissioner of Education, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner, thank you for having us. My question is on item 207. This is $7 million for Project Mountain. And my concern here is, this is the accept and expend. Will there be a contract between the state and Seven Hills that will follow this?
Absolutely.
And will there be and that contract will have to come back to council before.
That's my understanding.
And what requirements will you have in that contract to assure the state that this new owner can't just take that investment and invest it,
Flip it.
and keep the profit?
Exactly. So we will, we haven't gotten to that place because I don't have access to the funds. But as we enter in, once we get the approval to move forward, in the conversations we've had thus far with the operator, we're going to make sure that both the investments that we make result in assets that get placed in service, and that they get placed in service for the benefit of New Hampshire residents for an appropriate period of time, that they're not assets that we put in service and are flipped in a real estate deal or something like that. So those are the conversations we've had so far. We've not actually put pen to paper in terms of negotiating the contract, but that will happen. And so I appreciate that feedback, and we'll make sure that those concerns are addressed in that contracting.
Can you tell me why you couldn't do this in the form of a forgivable loan, as we've seen so many other times, so that if they're providing services over a period of time satisfactorily meet those requirements, then the loan would be forgiven?
Yeah, so a forgivable loan or some other type of clawback mechanism might be appropriate. I think we're going to then enter into the discussions with them and figure out what the best way is to do that. But whether it is in the form of a forgivable loan or some other type of clawback methodology, we will use that.
I think this referred to this as being a grant, wasn't it? No?
But it is a grant, but there will be, because it's a nonprofit, but there will be terms associated with that grant that include these items that we're discussing.
Okay, I think that this is very similar to the situation we faced with the psychiatric hospital beds, right? That
With the mental health, the investment at Elliott. Yeah.
Solution.
Yeah.
So, we were concerned that if we approved this, that then by the time, you bring us a contract, we don't really get an opportunity to have input in that process. We wanted, as a council, to have input into the process of what we were looking for that would satisfy make us satisfied that the state of New Hampshire was really getting something in return, satisfactory in return for the investment.
So I'm happy to engage with you. I don't know, is there a specific process that you want to follow to get that input, or if you just want to share that with us?
Maybe what we can do is a kind of presentation about what is being proposed, how the funds are being proposed to be used, and then that may be a discussion in terms of the assurances that the council would need and the state would need, rightly so, to make sure that there's clawback provisions, the safety nets, right, that we want to see in terms of how those dollars are spent, to be sure that not just that they're being spent the way they need to be spent, but the citizens of New Hampshire actually get to utilize those funds. They're not just being spent to create a facility that only takes care of kids
From
outside the state. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think we did that in the form of a non-meeting meeting with council and the Attorney General's office with respect to the prior arrangement we were discussing, and I think that would be appropriate here. What we also did in that arrangement was we held off approving the accept and expend and approved the accept and expend at the same time as the contract. And I don't know why we wouldn't do that. here as well.
So my only request in terms of being able to continue to move forward is that I do know that the operator of this facility is continuing to do other work independent of these funds. They're seeking other loans and stuff like that, and I think it would help them to move their process forward as well, to show that the state is continuing to make progress, because simply by doing the acceptance spend, we've not actually committed ourselves to a contract with them, but it is an indication that this is a project that the state supports, of course with appropriate terms, but it continues to move forward.
Yeah, I think that we can take the temperature of the council on that, and I just don't want to see what I feared last time would happen, and that is that we would approve the accept and expend, all of a sudden the contract's on the agenda, but the time's run out, we're under the gun, we have no choices, I think...
So I'm happy to commit to not bring a contract to you until we go through this non-meeting process, and I solicit your feedback, because there's no reason for me to bring a contract to you that you're not going to support. So I need that feedback in terms of what it is that you're looking for from the contract, so that I can put that together in a form that you're going to be happy with.
Councilor Stevens, any other question?
When the prior tenant went out of business, I applaud you for the way that you transitioned families that were left without any facilities. There are a few issues with Seven Hills Foundation. They have not registered with the Department of Justice, the Charitable Trust Division, and that was confirmed yesterday. And that's a concern. So hence, this would be a question for the Attorney General we can proceed. You can only gather so much by looking at a 990, which I reviewed, and we don't have audited financials. So I defer to the Attorney General.
Sure. Thank you, Council, for the question. So we did look at this. We looked at it over the past few days, and I talked to Diane Quinlan, Director of Charitable Trusts. This entity was formed in November of 22. New organizations or new nonprofits or charities, when they enter the state, have 6 months to register with the Charitable Trust Unit. They're late on that, but we're working on getting them registered. It's not uncommon for entities to sometimes miss that deadline by a month or two, especially if they're only just beginning operations. So while we don't want people to be late, we are in communication with them. They're not trying to hide. We're working on getting them registered. The CTU, the Charitable Trust Unit, is going to look at the organization as a whole just to see whether we have concerns. At this point, I don't have a concern with moving forward, especially because this isn't a contract. Based on what we know about the organization, they've got extensive operations, they've got extensive resources. Are not concerned with their ability to actually carry through on this project or to operate effectively in the state.
As a follow-up, they have an endowment at $42 million. Secondly, there are 3 staffers almost earning $3 million amongst them. And I know this is a very complex organization with 23 separate facilities, and their work is wonderful. My only concern is, these are critical capital improvements, which I support, but how long do they guarantee to sustain the property for this use? What are their occupancy goals? What are their staffing goals? Again, would they give a 10-year commitment to provide care as we negotiated with Solution Health? So I'm looking for a structure that is similar to Solution Health.
If I may, this is not a contract. That would all be in the contract, right? This would just be, and exactly getting that input from the council would be hugely useful.
And moving forward, I think that's important. Thank you.
I think that it might be, especially given that they haven't registered yet, might be wise to table this to the next meeting and have an opportunity to have a non-meeting meeting and get the sense of what the council's looking for, and whether you, Commissioner, think that those are terms that you can reasonably negotiate.
Yeah, so all of the conversations that we've had here relative to items that would be terms are items that I've engaged the president of Seven Hills on relative to this project. But again, I've not negotiated the contract because I didn't know if I was going to get the approval or not. I'm happy to engage in that non-meeting to make sure that we hear all of your concerns, and those are the terms that would be incorporated into any type of an agreement that is reached. I do have a concern that they have multiple strands that they're pursuing for this facility in terms of trying to move it forward, and I don't know what the effect will have relative to those other strands if we delay this. So today, they're licensed for 105 students. They have 26 students that they're serving, and so I just want to make sure that I don't put myself in the circumstance which we found ourselves in November when Health and Human Services pulled their license, and I had 50 students who were imminently going to be placed on the street, and they would end up in New York and California, which would have been very disruptive to the family. So I think we can continue to move forward on both of these trajectories at the same time.
Further discussion? Go, Councilor Gansis.
So it's clear that that $7 million contract has to come out.
It's clear to
We're not going
me.
to be told that, well, you got to be careful because we're at short time and we have to do this.
I can commit to you that there will not be a contract in front of this council until we've had the non-meeting. So you'll have 100% input into whatever's going to be in that contract.
I guess tabling it gives us assurance about the timeline of the non-meeting meeting. It's not going to occur 5 minutes, a week before we get the contract.
We'll do the non-meeting meeting right after July 4th. Full commitment, yeah.
Sure, let's table this contract. My motion to table the contract till the July meeting.
Is there a second to that? No second?
Stephen, we need to see progress at this property. We saw how devastating it was when there was that rapid closure. I do think it's important for the state to evaluate, their financial lives, and that's an important step with the charitable trust unit. Unless Attorney General, you're saying it is okay.
Yeah, Council, what I would say right now is that based on what we know at this point, they seem fine. We have confidence in them. But again, given that this is not the contract before you today, I would certainly be prepared to bring you more detailed information or any update before you ever enter into a contract. But this is a large organization. They've got extensive resources. Everything we know about them tells us that they operate well. We'll continue to do that research, but I don't have any concern in standing here today with moving forward with accepting this plan.
And Councilor Worthington, I would just emphasize as well, we're trying to make sure that we're communicating to our families in this process that the state is committed to moving this forward, and we will do everything we can expeditiously to make sure that that happens. And I don't want to, we haven't committed ourselves. I've given you assurances, I've given assurances to Councilor Gansis that we're not going to bring anything, and you're not going to have a short amount of time. I will schedule it right away. The governor can put it on the agenda after you feel like you've had a sufficient amount of time with it, but I do think that we need to continue to show that we're making progress down this path.
And I'll just only add to that, there are right now 26, but there's really more like 50 to 60 families that are very interested in knowing that this is going forward. I think they are scared to death that their kids are going to have to go out of state. This is the organization that saved that from happening. So I think that's the biggest fear in the delay. Not just on the process. You and your process is great, but for me, it's about the families and these kids that are nervous that if the state is hedging, they're gone. They're going to have to go.
Right, and just to be clear, the questions I'm asking, are to assure that this investment ends up with a facility that's there to provide treatment for the kids in New Hampshire, and not something that ends up flipped in a real estate deal where probably.
Going forward today obligates us to nothing, correct?
Sorry, you said
If this were approved today, and we never got to an agreement on the contract, not a single penny would be spent.
No.
Money can only be spent. It can only be spent when this council approves a contract. So going forward today doesn't obligate the state to anything other than the technical approval of what the fiscal committee has already approved.
Essentially what it does is it enables me to begin the negotiation.
Negotiation, right?
Right.
Technically,
I can't negotiate for funds I don't have.
Exactly. I don't mean to belittle it, but this is more of a technicality before we get to a contract that will make sure the council has full input. Sorry, Councilor Gatsby.
Thank you, Governor. You said it can accommodate 105.
So currently, they're licensed for 105 residential students and I believe 105 day students as well.
Could they fill all those beds today?
We don't know, they're not available to them at this point in time, so I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I do know that
Why are they not available?
because of the maintenance and the repairs that are going to be done.
If I may, I believe the bulk of these dollars go to a lot of the facilities where the staff would live. So they don't have the staff because most of the places where the staff normally would live are unlivable right now. So that's, I think, the hesitation on being able to bring in more students. Yes, Councilor?
And I appreciate, again, I'm going to say the third time, how much I appreciate you supported my families when there was a closure back in November. We need to support our families. I have to exercise my fiduciary responsibility as well. I know this, but knowing that the Attorney General is giving his support, and I would receive.
Further discussion on any of these items? Or
The big ones.
the tabling was in second. Okay, all in favor of items 205, sorry, bear with me. What item number is that? 207, correct. Okay, let's do this, let's just do it this way. All in favor of items 205 and 206, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. All in favor of item 207, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 207 is approved. All in favor of items 208 through 233, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Great, thank you guys. So let's do this, let's just make sure we do a non-meeting in Dover, right? Can we do that? All right, we'll do the Dover stuff, and then maybe we'll do a non-meeting prior to going over to the official meeting, or over there. But sometime prior to the next meeting, we should be able to have a non-meeting. And then we'll talk to the commission about whether Seven Hills, and maybe some folks from HHS might have to be there as well. Only because HHS is integral in the facility, so we'll talk about it. All right, thank you. Okay, can I now have a motion to adopt agenda items 234 through 247 from the Department of Safety? Motion and second. Any discussion? Councilor Kenny. Item 242.
Good afternoon, Governor, Director, Council members, Bob Quinn from the Department of Safety. Good things.
So the stone garden contract for the middle of the border, $75,000 for work. There's a lot going on in that border, and there's a lot of emphasis that state government put with putting additional funding for supporting, the law enforcement and state levels. Where does this plug into all of that, this contract right here?
Well, this contract's been in effect for over 10 years, and this...
No, I get that, but I mean, we're currently here on the border, with all the activities going on. How do we plug this contract into additional resources, and obviously the interoperability task force communication? How do we plug this into all of that?
But it's already been plugged in, so this is critical, it's been ongoing. These programs are in effect, and this will continue and give them funding to run this till August of 25. So this program has been operational. What they're doing right now has been funded from prior Homeland grants, but this will just continue. But this has been in effect for, like I said, I believe since 2010.
Okay, so follow-up question. In some years, we use this money for capital equipment grants. Sometimes we use it for overtime. Sometimes we use it for various reasons. How are we going to use it this time around?
Well, actually, these 6 agencies can apply to the federal government for funding, whether it's equipment but right now, these dollars primarily go for overtime.
For overtime? And so that's cost county sheriff, cost police department, Pittsburgh Police Department, New Hampshire State Police Department, and
Right. I can drill into exactly if there is, but it's primarily overtime. In the past, I believe Colbert was funded a vehicle, but the majority of this is to keep these folks active and working these details.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the items from the Department of Safety, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved. Can I have a motion to adopt agenda items 248 through 255 from the Department of Justice? Any discussion? Councilor Stevens?
I've got a big binder.
Good afternoon,
Good
Attorney
afternoon.
General. I just wanted to compliment you and your team, Chris Aslan, on the success that you've had with PFAS litigation, keeping it within the New Hampshire court system. We are the only state that succeeded. And then secondly, it's a bifurcated case, and the PFAS case is being conducted in the U.S. District Court in South Carolina. But we are so far ahead of other states with this litigation, so I just wanted to say, well done.
Thank you, Counselor, and yeah, I do have to give a shout out to Chris Aslan and the team. They've done amazing work on this, so thank you for that.
And just to follow, I have a lot of hot zones within my district, and it's very reassuring to my constituents that they don't have to worry about filing at this point, that the state of New Hampshire is taking care of it, so thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Further discussion with the Attorney General? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items from the Department of Justice are approved. Can I have a motion to adopt agenda items 256 through 277 from the Department of Administrative Services? Any discussion for DAS? Council Wheeler?
Could you just give a little explanation on how you came about to choosing LaValle Greshner for the architect? There was no cost in this bid, I don't think. It looked like just scoring. And why don't we try to get a cost from the different architects for these designs?
So the provision of, I'm sorry, Charlie Arlinghouse, I'm the Commissioner of Administrative Services. Terrible, right? Architects, engineers, there's a special provision of state law 21I22, I think it's 22 or 23, which is for the selection of architects, engineers, and design. And that provision of law, which dates back quite some time, long before my time, probably before all our times, so maybe Kevin's, it goes back a long way, and it's so that when you're selecting the architect as opposed to the construction bid is bid, and it's entirely based on cost. But the design is not based on cost, it's based on a relationship with the designer. And so it's always been for every project. You saw, for example, the Adjutant General had 5 contracts on for these kind of contracts. For larger projects, instead of just using one of the existing statewide contracts, we do a competition, and it typically will involve both Public Works and the using agency. So we never have a cost component to it, because under traditional standards, whether it's the American Institute of Architects or whatever the engineering version of that is, there's a general standard provision for the services you would provide and the rough cost it is, typically about 10% of the estimate of the project.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Good. Since this is in my district, so the architectural plans, it says here, are going to be delivered by May 31st, 2024. When do you anticipate construction?
That's a good question. Ted, do you have a sense of when we would start construction in that case? I mean, theoretically, we would go through the process of, I'm going to bring Ted Cupper from the Director of Public Works up. We get the design, then it depends how long the contracting takes. Put it out to bid for a while, and then a few months to get to council. So we probably wouldn't start construction until maybe September.
What's the item?
Rochester Courthouse, okay. We're going to have plans by May 31st, 2024. That's right. So when would construction start, ballpark?
Probably in 2025, in all likelihood. We put it out to bid, it would go through governor and council, and we get an approval sometime late fall, early winter, and then they would plan on spring. So,
Thank you. Further discussion, Council Warmington.
Item 277 is the contract for the development of the secure psychiatric unit. That contract did come in over expected price, but you think you'll be able to complete it for this amount?
Yes, so estimating is one of those things lately in construction that's, I get myself in trouble. It's like meteorology, right? There's a strong likelihood of rain, but you're good either way. You get an estimate, you go out to bid, and if we have a lot of bidders on a project, or somebody really wants the business, they come in under bid. I think ballpark, something like, don't hold me to this exactly, but something like our last 29 contracts that have come to council, about 2/3 of them, I want to say 19 have been overestimate and 10 have been under, and the median is about, if you line them all up, because I did this, because I'm like that, 13% was the median bid.
You're like the weatherman.
I'm very much like a weatherman in a lot of ways. So 13% is sort of the median at this point, and this is actually a little bit below that. So it's better than average. So we feel pretty good about it. It's a new building, so there aren't a lot of unknowns, if you know what I mean. Like we're going to open a wall and find asbestos or a dead body or something.
And when do you expect construction to start and finish? I know that's also an estimate.
The contract has a completion date, which is when they have to be done by or incur penalties, I think of the end of 2025. So that's the ballpark range.
Great, thank you.
Further discussion? GAS.
I'll be hosting the next council meeting in Dover on the 19th. How many contracts do you anticipate?
You mean how many total agenda items?
Yes.
Well, let's see, we had 305 at this meeting. You want me to pick a number? 126.
You can place your bets on DraftKings right now.
And for Councilor Warmington, I would say that we are, in fact, we have gone up to bid on lab services, are evaluating the bids, and expect to have something at one of the 2 August meetings.
Further discussion for DAS? Okay, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the items from administrative services, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. We have no late items or table items or, sorry.
Councilor Weaver told me he wanted to talk about the informational item I sent. Because he's going to tell me after the meeting, or he's going to tell me now?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure.
I can do it offline.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. I was this close to getting out of here. Oh my goodness. All right. I know there is a GASSET hearing, or the first GASSET meeting. Not a hearing, but the first GASSET meeting. And over at DOT.
Then we have a public hearing.
And then the public hearing here for the public utilities. Okay, with that, we will conclude this meeting. Thanks, everybody.